Hey guys, what's going on? This is Damian Forrester, eXp Realty, your relocation specialist here in Billings, Montana. And we have a special guest today, Douglas Ross. Would you like Doug or Douglas?
Doug would be preferred.
Doug, there we go, Doug. Doug is with PWM Mortgage. And we are really excited to have him today because he's going to be talking about one of those loan opportunities that not a lot of people really know about. Okay, so talk to us, Doug. What are we talking about today?
So today we're talking about rehabilitation loans. There's a lot of different types of rehabilitation loans. People hear 203K, they hear the Fannie Mae home style, there's hard money options. So my goal is to kind of break this down on a very simple level so everyone can kind of wrap their heads around it to figure out if this is the right product for you.
Perfect. All right, so that is our topic for the day. 203K, but it's more than just a 203K. It seems like there's several options. But before we really get into this and dig deep, tell us a little bit about yourself, Doug.
Okay, so I'm a happily married father of 4 young kids. Been doing the loan game for about 10 years. About 4 years ago, got approached to be a president of a mortgage company that is now PWM Mortgage. When I first started out, I was working for a direct lender, right? Worked for one bank, had the name tag, can only sell that product. But I was handcuffed. I didn't like being handcuffed to just one bank's product. So after that, I got into the brokered world where you work with 50 different banks. You got a lot of different options, rates, products. I fell in love with it. Been doing it ever since. You know, my passion in this industry is educating people so they understand what they're getting into, empower them to make the right decision.
Outstanding. Sounds like we got something similar going on here. You know, helping to educate and advocating for what we do. Mine is real estate, yours is lending, and overall it's just helping people to get into a home, right? Love it. All right, so let's get into this. So can you briefly explain the 203K loan and how it differs from your regular conventional loan?
Yeah, so the 203Ks, maybe we should talk about rehab loans, all right? So rehab loans fall under a lot of categories. There's 203Ks. And so first off, if you're going to go for an investment property, we're not talking rehab loans. We're actually talking hard money fix and flips. So it's a different product altogether, higher rates, big money down. All of the rehab loans we're talking about today are for primary residences, right? This is for a borrower who wants to buy a house and live there. And you have 4 options, right? You have the 203K standard, the 203K limited, which we could break down. Then you have, those are FHA options. And then you have the conventional products, which are your home style 2 options as well. So those are going to be our rehab loan options. In terms of how they differ from a normal loan, the difference is you can finance the rehabilitation work into the loan itself. So you get one big loan and you can finance an extra 50K or something to cover all your rehab costs.
Okay, so it sounds like it could be a big benefit for buyers and sellers based on what you just been saying, right?
Yeah,
but can you just highlight those one more time? You know, the benefit really for the buyer.
The benefit for the buyer is you're looking for the house, but it's not exactly what you want, right? You're looking at a certain price point, but man, the kitchen needs to be updated and the flooring needs to be changed. And I really don't like the coloring of the walls. And so typically the first-time home buyer breaks the bank to get into the house, then you got to save to do all this rehab work to make it yours. The beauty of the rehab loan is you can actually finance in all of those costs, make the house what you want, to feel like a new home without the new home price.
So we're finding fixer-upper pretty much, and you're telling me FHA is willing to give you the money to fix that home prior to purchasing it?
100%.
Wow.
So for those people that have vision, right? They're like, I know this house is going to be amazing, but I got to do some stuff to it. The FHA conventional allows you to finance in all that rehab work.
Now, people would probably think it's better for an investor to probably use this type of loan. I mean, is there a big difference between an investor and your regular Joe looking to buy your home?
So rehab loans are going to be for the person buying a house for themselves. You have to live there, right? The investors are going to get into the hard money fix and flip arena. It's a whole different product. The rates, the fees, everything's different. So this is going to be for that family who wants to buy their home for them.
Perfect. All right. So what are me coming in looking for a rehab loan, what are those basic requirements for a buyer?
So they're actually very standard to a normal loan, right? To kind of walk someone through like what a pre-approval looks like on a normal loan, right? I say 3 simple steps, right? Step 1 is an application. Fill it out online. You can do it with a loan officer, either way. Step 2 is documentation. We got to get some docs to kind of calculate usable income, earnings to figure out which products you qualify for. And then step 3 is you meet with your loan officer and we dive in. We talk about everything you could take advantage of, help you find something comfortable for you. It's the same on a normal loan as it is a rehab loan. The only difference on the rehab loan element is that now we're talking about additional financing to rehab a property. And as such, we need a contractor too that can be approved and is ready to do that work for you.
All right. I was going to get to the next question, but you mentioned contractors. Is that something that the buyer has to find, or does the bank find it for them? The realtor? I mean, how does that work? How do we find a contractor? Because it sounds like you might need a number of different people to help fix that home.
Yeah, that's a good question, right? And honestly, with these rehab loans, the contractor is the sticking point sometimes, right? Because contractors are busy. And unfortunately, rehab loans, the lender has to approve your contractor. They got to be licensed. They got to be bonded. It can't be your brother who's never done this before and on the side he's putting in sinks or something, right? It's got to be an actual legit contractor. The lender's got to approve them. And there's some paperwork involved, more paperwork than a normal contracting job would include. So what we like to do is prepare the contractor. It's good to get to know or talk to your contractor ahead of time. Let me chat with them so that we can get on the same page about the scope of work and the amount of work required to get us to the finish line together.
Okay.
I mean, the biggest sticking point on these is finding a contractor who's just too busy, doesn't want to deal with the extra hoops, and then it ends up causing challenges when we're in escrow.
So to make things a little bit easier, either A, that buyer might know someone that's a professional contractor, no offense to those that out there just, well, you know what I'm saying, or the lender may have someone in mind, or the realtor. So we'll put all our heads together and to make things work. Okay, great. Earlier you mentioned there were 3 types of, you helped me and corrected myself in rehab and 203K. So 203K is a type of rehab, right? So talk to me about the different types of rehab loans.
So I would say there's 4 types of rehab loans in the industry today, right? You have your fix and flips, which fall under investment properties. So this is for the investor. He's not going to live there. We're buying this to rent out. We're going to flip it, whatever. That falls under hard money. It's not really the discussion we're having today. Those are 20% down, very high interest rate, a lot of fees, different type of product. But the Fannie Freddie backed products, there's 3. So there's FHA, which has 2 versions, a limited and a standard. Those are called the 203K. And then you have your conventional, which is the Fannie Mae home style. The big difference is FHA loans work with lower credit score borrowers, and they also have less money down. So your 203K options get away with 3.5% down, and I can have a 620 credit score and still get a loan.
Oh, nice.
Whereas the conventional product, the home style, is going to be 5% down minimum. They do require your credit scores be a little higher, but with those types of products, you can actually consider what are called luxury item upgrades as part of your rehab budget.
Okay.
So the pool, the barbecue pit, that kind of stuff you can actually include. So those are maybe the key differences is FHA and conventional both have their own versions. One's a little more money down than the other, but there's perks to credit scores and what you're trying to upgrade in terms of which one you consider.
All right, great. It seems like there's a big process here. It's saying, well, in our standard FHA closing, we're talking about 30 to 45 days in Montana at least. All right. I know some states are different. You can probably close faster. It might take a little bit longer. But can you please break down the actual process from not just finding a realtor, but understanding that you need 203K loan? What's the first step with the lender to get them through the full process?
Perfect. Yeah, that's a good question. I think the biggest downfall when people are out there looking is, I want to do rehab loan and make an offer on this house, but we haven't talked to a contractor yet. We haven't gotten prepared. And so that piece is so important because right when we go into contract, you're out there making offers, right? And you get an offer accepted. The contractor's got to go out with the borrower immediately to start doing a walkthrough to figure out, what are we going to do to the house? What are we going to repair? What are we going to change so they can build what's called a scope of work? Once they build that scope of work along with the contract gets turned into the lender. And then we're going to review that scope of work and order what's called an appraisal, where the appraiser goes out. Now, typically an appraiser goes out, you're buying a house for $400,000. They want to make sure the house is worth $400,000. The difference on a rehab loan is they're going out with the contract that says $400,000, but they also have this contractor scope of work with them. And they're like, oh, the kitchen's going to be remodeled and all of the flooring is going to come out. And so they're going to give us what's called an after improvement value. Okay. Where they're going to say, okay, it's worth $400 now, but after they do all these fixing, it's going to be $475. And so they're going to give us the value after repairs. And that after repair value has got to match the purchase price and also what we're trying to finance together. That's a big piece. And that's where using a good realtor comes in handy, right? Because when you're doing the rehab work, you want to make sure you're doing the types of repairs that are going to boost value. Because we are financing beyond the contract price, so we got to boost that value up high enough to justify the lender taking out such a big loan against the property. Okay. Wow, it sounds like this type of loan can really help a community, really help neighborhoods that are maybe in blight. So if someone were to come in and use this type of loan, who knows what the neighbor might see
as this house being fixed up, they might want to do something to their home, which eventually increases value across the community, right? That's awesome. Okay, so you mentioned something about realtors, us realtors. Let's talk about the realtor in general here. What is your idea of the ideal realtor to help you and the buyer make things as smooth and go as successful as possible?
So I would say the ideal realtor kind of sees ahead of the game a little bit right now. We're not just reacting to things, we're getting ahead. I remember when Damian and I first met, we talked about rehab loans. He's like, well, it sounds like we've got to find a contractor. So immediately we started to find the right people, the right players in the game ahead of time.
That's right.
So we're not reacting after we go into contract. We're scrambling and missing deadlines trying to find the right people. So finding the right realtor who's going to give us the right kinds of contacts, i.e. contractors. And it's also going to give the right kinds of recommendations to the borrower in terms of the types of upgrades that should be included in this scope of work to make sure the value comes in where we need it to be. That's the number one issue right now, is value not justifying the additional financing. So getting the right input from an experienced realtor who knows what upgrades are going to give us the value we need is key and pivotal to this whole process.
Awesome. All right, realtors out there, you guys need to listen to this guy. All right, dropping a lot of great bombs. All right, so I would like to know at this point then, with that realtor, there's a lot of things in that process that realtor, like you mentioned, can help you or help the home increase in value. Now, are we talking about structural things? Are we talking about cosmetic things? I mean, what does it matter? I mean, how much does that realtor really need to embrace?
So the realtor, the realtor is such a pivotal piece to this whole thing, right? Because sometimes houses are sold undervalued because they know there's a major issue. And so a realtor will know, okay, well, once this issue gets fixed, it should be valued at this. So they're really weighing out the current value, why the property is selling for what it is now. And then they're weighing in all the improvements we're considering doing to ensure that our value comes out top. So it's not just looking at cosmetic improvements, it's also looking at, well, if we're going to do some structural stuff, is that structural item impacting current value? And once fixed, will it get us the value we need?
Sounds like you really need an experienced realtor.
100%.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if you are a non-experienced realtor, I would say a year in the game, maybe two years or less, probably want to get in contact with someone like yourself or their broker, of course, to get a good idea of what this process is, and what we're talking about right now. Okay.
100%. I think these are one of those these types of loans where if you get a pre-approval letter from a random loan officer for a rehab loan, it's important to get in touch with that loan officer and really get an understanding of what you're getting into, right? Because a lot of people think that the work's happening while we're in escrow, which just isn't true, right? That we're coming out, they're going to give us a scope of work, it gets approved, but no work starts until we close escrow, and there's an escrow holdback. They hold back all that money, and the contractor gets the money and draws post-close of escrow. So if you have a good contractor, you got a good lender, you got a good agent, there's no reason why you shouldn't close these things in 30 days because there's no work actually happening.
Right.
We're just doing all the prep work to make sure it all happens smoothly post-close.
Outstanding. All right, great. Is there a big difference in interest rates or anything when it comes to a 203K loan and your regular financing options?
There is. So the biggest difference is you're going to see about 0.5% increase in the interest rate on a rehab product versus a traditional Fannie Freddie. Right. So whether that's on the FHA option or the conventional option, you're going to want to build in anywhere from 0.5 to 0.6 rate hike because of the risk level the lender's taking on.
I was going to ask about that. Yeah, there is a huge risk level. And I didn't mean to emphasize it like that, but there truly is. All right. Okay, cool. It sounds like a lot of great stuff here, right? But let's reality check here. There may be some pitfalls, all right, with having this type of loan. So what are some challenges that the buyer should really be aware of when doing a 203K loan?
I think the two biggest challenges we got to overcome. Number one, realtors' misconceptions of what a rehab loan is. I'm a realtor, I'm a listing agent, I get 6 offers. One of them is a rehab loan. I'm nervous. I don't understand rehab loans. I don't know if this is going to be a long escrow or a mess. And so the first thing is fighting against that misconception, making sure your loan officer's calling the listing agent, giving them assurances, hey, done these before, here's what you're in for, to give them the warm and fuzzies to have the confidence to accept that offer is number one. Number two is the contractor, such a pivotal piece. The biggest sticking point I see on a lot of these projects is the contractor's busy. Right? I need a form. It takes him a week to get it to me. He fills out the scope of work. I can't read it because it's chicken scratch, right? Contractors are awesome, but some of them don't like paperwork. And so having to do a good amount of paperwork can cause challenges because they're treated almost like the borrower, right? They're getting vetted. We're checking their bonding. And so a lot of contractors don't like that. They get their feathers kind of ruffled up. And so again, that's why it's so important we meet with the contractor ahead of time. We give them a heads up on, okay, you're going to be filling this out, or we're going to be asking for this, and they give us the green light. Because if we're trying to do that while we're in escrow and there's pressure and time and the borrower's relying on you to get this done, that's when things start to get shaky and could even fall apart.
Okay, so, and speaking of time, now the contract, it has a lot of contingencies and times, right? So contingencies in the contract has anything to do with a time. You know, in Montana, it's by 5 p.m. Now, outside of the contract is, I guess, the government, right, for these loans. Do they have a time limit on when things should close, or is it just based on the contract itself?
In escrow, it's just based on the contract.
Okay, great.
Depending on the type of loan you get, typically 6 months is about the amount of time that this loan likes to see the work done. The contractor needs to finish their project within a certain amount of time. But that's more about the loan. 6 months is the typical standard.
Okay, cool. All right, so you've been in this business for how long again?
10 years.
10 years. 10 years, you've seen a lot of ups and downs with your clients. I'm sure with a lot of fails, you've learned a lot throughout this process. And specifically with this rehab loan we're talking about, can you give us some good success stories?
Yeah, I can think of one offhand where the borrower bought a property for under market. It needed a lot of work, but he had a lot of vision. And he knew a great contractor who worked together in the past. And so it was a smooth escrow. He ended up dumping a certain amount of money per the scope of work. But after the work was done, the after improved value we got in escrow was $100,000 higher than what his total project and loan amount was.
So wait, are you telling me that the purchase price, let's say, let's throw numbers out there, $120,000, right? Are you telling me that an estimated $100,000 as soon as they closed?
Even after the budget. Yeah, I mean, even after all the money he put into it, it was insta equity of 6 figures because he was doing the right kinds of upgrades to the house to have a massive boost in value from when he got his keys.
Well, that has a lot to do with the lender. It has a lot to do with the realtor. And like you talked about, those pricing, and a lot to do with it. This is a big team. It's a huge team. So everyone has to definitely work close together. So, all right, any resources, including yourself, and that people can go out there? Are there websites out there that people can learn more information? Do you have a website? People can get a hold of you and talk more about what do you have?
Yeah, so you could research some of this stuff and get some of these facts. I think the most pivotal piece is working with a loan officer who has experience in this arena that can prepare you for what's to come. I think nothing really replaces experience when it comes to the loan officer and also the real estate agent and their experience when it comes to the types of upgrades to pick to make sure that everything goes smoothly. So 100%, the team you're working with, as you referenced, is everything. It's making sure you have 10 years of experience in the team, you're going to have a smooth ride.
Awesome.
If this is their first time ever doing this, they're a little nervous and shaky. There's going to be some bumps in the road, right? And
absolutely.
You might still get to the finish line, but it's going to be a little bumpy.
Got it. All right, so as we're going to close this up a little bit here, so give us your top 3 tips, for based on what we talked about and everything that you said. What are the top 3 things on the buyer side would really need to be aware of that would help them through the process?
So I would say number 1, get educated before you try and make an offer on a rehab loan. Understand the product, understand what you're getting into. I'd say tip number 2 is find the right contractor. Take the time to make sure your contractor's talking to your loan officer and they understand what they're in store for. Number 3, make sure you're working with the right agent, right? The agent's everything.
I love that.
You choose the wrong upgrades and you don't get the value at the end of the day, you're not getting the house. The whole project falls apart. So that's such an important piece as well.
Outstanding. All right. So just give you some props here. Let's hear about you. How can people get a hold of you if they need to get more information? Not just about the rehab loans, but anything else in general. I'm assuming you do jumbos, you do it all. Tell us about that.
There's a lot of different products out there. And again, the brokered world is amazing because you have access to so many, right? You got your standard Fannie Freddie products, which most mortgage lenders are going to do, right? Your conventional, your FHA, your USDA, your VA. You also got your jumbo products, which is when the loan size gets above a certain amount per county, it's jumbo territory. Now it's higher down, different interest rate. Then you got your subprime loans, right? Your subprime loans are going to be outside the Fannie Freddie box, right? Stated income, bank statement only, the wild westy stuff that got us in trouble in 2007 and 2008. They're still out there, right? And there are people that just don't fit in the Fannie Freddie box. And so instead of saying no, we can say, well, we got some alternative products if you want to consider these.
Are you talking about things like under credit scores under 650? I mean,
actually under 550, right? So
really?
FHA loans will take you all the way down to a 580 with a 3.5% down. They'll actually go all the way down to 500 if you're willing to put 10% down.
I was going to say, so you're juggling that or trying to balance that with a higher interest rate and more money down, or I mean, is that right?
100%. And so honestly, what I love so much about the brokered world is if we got a low credit score borrower, I got 6 lenders over here that work with low credit scores all day long. If I got an A paper with high money down, got 5 guys over here all day long. You got a veteran We got VA lenders over
Love
here.
it.
So the ability to kind of know which bank your scenario fits best with is the value of the brokered world.
Got it. All right. So I'm going to throw this one in here. This is a bonus, and you don't know about this one yet. Here we go. All right. So with everything's coming up in the realtor world, with realtors having to negotiate our commissions with our sellers, or buyers may have to pay for the services of realtors. Are you prepared? Are you ready? What's going on in your world right now with that?
Yeah, so it is a potential shift in things that's around the corner.
Yeah.
And I think that ultimately, and I've been kind of helping agents understand this, as long as we keep things seller paid, nothing changes, right? Sellers can always pay a buyer's agent commission. It's built into the value. That's how it's structured now. And honestly, it's Fannie and Freddie that are really starting to change some of their guidelines to accommodate this new potential direction.
Okay.
For a long time, VA loans were like, absolutely not. The veteran cannot pay for their buyer's agent. They have since changed their stance on that. Right? FHA has also changed their stance. So the lending industry in general, not so much me or my company, it's really the lending industry in general is starting to adapt to this to allow a buyer to pay their own agent in response. Okay. So more to come on that as we get closer and closer. We're getting more releases from Fannie and Freddie.
I definitely want to have you in again to discuss that, because that's one topic alone. And then you mentioned, boy, I counted like maybe 6 or 7 different types of loans that we probably need to break down further, because not everyone fits every loan, right? Not every loan fits everyone. So, all right, great. So last plug, how can people get a hold of you if they wanted to reach out to you and get your services?
A lot of different ways, right? My email address is always there, ross.doug@outlook.com. We also got my phone number, 916-259-6302. Also my Montana number, don't have it memorized, but it'll be on the screen right now.
We'll make sure we get that on there.
My social media is on there as well. So just check me out, guys. I'm here to help. You can also get in touch with Damian, who can get you in touch with me. We're all here to help, guys.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for coming in. Really do appreciate it. Once again, Damian Forrester, relocation specialist here in Billings, Montana. Putting people together, business and businesses together. Really excited to have you with us today, and we're going to get you back again. You guys, if you have any questions, reach out to Doug here or myself regarding purchasing or even selling a home. Take care, guys.
Thanks, guys.